Welcome to BAFTA, welcome to London.
No, thank you.
Explorers, your first film, you were 13. I read a thing where Joe Dante, the director, said you weren't even going to the audition, you just kind of went along with a friend.
This kid who was in my school who I really liked, named Brandon, he used to go into New York on professional auditions. I accompanied him. So it's not like I wasn't auditioning. I did audition and I took Polaroids. Well, I got the part. To Joe's credit, he loved the story that I didn't have an agent.
Yeah.
And so
It's a good story, yeah.
It's a good story.
Your co-star in that movie was River Phoenix.
I never felt more ordinary in my life. River was a full-blown teen idol. Justin Bieber. I was apoplectic with jealousy. His parents, they raised him in an extremely unconventional way. They'd been street beggars. My mom was 17. I was from Texas and now in the New York area, and I'd always felt kind of like a Charles Dickens character myself, but I wasn't anywhere close to Dickens the way that River was. I really feel that when people are looking around today about lesbian and gay rights and things like that, people forget what a groundbreaker River was. Yeah. He went off with a completely experimental filmmaker, and River played a gay character at a time period when that was completely frowned on. He was just totally at peace with the unwavering equality of mankind.
We're going to talk about the incredible cast you worked with in Dead Poets Society.
Peter Weir was adamant that it not be an older man's viewpoint of what a young boy is like. We had 2 weeks of sitting around in this rehearsal room really thinking and talking about what is the difference between your character and your character, what is, and really thinking it through, and to the point where he gave Robert Sean Leonard and I, he gave us an assignment. He said, okay, I need a scene in the movie where you two become friends, and I want you to get together and write me three-page scenes. And we really worked hard on it. We wrote 3 versions, one of which he did shoot, and it's not in the movie, but we became friends. Funnily enough, 5 years later, NBC was going to air Dead Poets Society, right? And he needed to add 4 minutes to the movie for the commercial breaks. Right. And he called us both up and he says, it made the cut. Oh, wow. You were one of the last to go. He said, I always wanted that scene to be in the movie, and now it's back in the movie. And so we watched it on NBC and we saw our scene. I don't think anything in my life prepared me more for my relationship with Richard Linklater. A lot of great directors, they have vision. They tell you exactly where to look and exactly what to see, and they impress their vision on you. Richard has never been that type of person. He really asks his actors to have vision, a little bit like perhaps Mike Leigh might do. Yeah. He curates a grander vision, and it's really exciting. And Peter did that with every single one of us. I would say to Peter, I don't like a lot of these lines, and he would say, you don't have to say any of them, but I have to think that you did.
Let's talk about Gattaca.
Yeah.
When you got that script, did you realize how special it was? Yeah.
I mean, Andrew Niccol had just written Truman Show. It's just a passion of mine, science fiction. It allows you to talk about philosophy and politics in a way where people aren't sure what side they're on. You set it in the future, you set it in some strange planet, you set it on a spaceship, and all of a sudden you can actually talk about the ideas and ethics involved in a situation. I personally think it's one of the great first films of all time.
I mean, you were writing, but you were still committed to being an actor as well.
I had a real disinterest in celebrity. I mean, I wanted to be successful at what I did, and it was really fun to work with talented people. I mean, to be on a film set with Andrew Niccol and hear that writing and know that no one's ever heard it before and see Jude Law. I'm not downplaying that I wanted these experiences, but I was pretty aware of how superficial that could be, and I didn't know what to do about it. So the one thing I thought I could do was take some responsibility for my own education and try to do other things. I tried to start writing, and I tried to start a theater company, and I was trying to not wait for the world to hand out any favors.
The Before Trilogy, if we can call it that, which of course the first one was before Gattaca, and you met Richard Linklater.
Well, I met a kindred spirit in Rick. I remember on Before Sunrise, I said, well, who's shooting this movie? He said, why? I said, I don't know, I mean, just who's the DP? You want it to look good? He said, why do I want it to look good? I said, well, everybody wants their movies to look good. He goes, I know. Isn't that irritating? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, everything looks like a Heineken ad. What are you selling? I think life looks awesome. It should just look like regular life. I remember Julie came in once and she said, this movie, it's just, us talking, people are going to be bored of me. And Rick said, if they get bored of you in 2 hours, I'm not making this movie for them.
Right. So what point did a great first film then turn into this thing where we're going to revisit those characters?
Richard asked Julie and I to make a cameo appearance in a film called Waking Life. And we had so much fun writing together again. And there floated out this idea of, well, what if we were to revisit these characters? What would it be? And the idea of Boyhood came into the air. And this idea of making a movie about family and using time, revisiting it. And that kind of naturally progressed into dialogue. Got to be fun to do that with Jesse and Celine as well. Right. So we wrote Before Sunset and Before Midnight after we'd started Boyhood. You know, it's just kind of funny to think about now.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by the collaborative process because the dialogue is so natural, the scenes feel so that they're flowing naturally from you.
It's the beauty of Linklater's process. I'll give you an example. There's a scene in Before Sunrise where I'm supposed to talk her into getting off the train. And Julie kept saying, I would never get off the train with some guy like this. And Rick would say, well, what would it take? And I would say, I know what it would do. And I'd try some Don Juan-like move. And Julie would be like, no way. And then I would say, all right, let me try again. And I'd try this, and Julie's like, oh, you make me sick, you American populist, you know. And then Rick would be like, okay, what would it be? And she'd say, well, it would have to be something that showed me that he was smart. She would kind of come up with some version of what it could be, and then I would say, well, I had this idea as a pickup line once of like, what if I tried to tell a girl that, think of me as a time machine. Go out with me tonight, and it'll prove to you that your future husband, who you're bored with, you'll think, well, he's not as bad as me, and so I'm going to make you happy to be with your future husband. And Julie's like, I like that. It would come out of an improv of sorts.
Right.
We'd never go to set without a meticulously written script, but we didn't have a script 3 weeks before we shot.
Do you know when the moments get fake?
What Rick used to say is, see, like, if people see you acting at all, then they'll notice that there's no plot. The second you say a joke with a well-oiled punchline, the whole thing falls apart. Because the next thing I thought is, oh, he's acting, isn't this funny? What's happening?
Right.
Why aren't the Russians coming at dawn? You know, why isn't there a bomb that's supposed to go off? All three of these scripts would have been kicked out of every decent screenwriting class in America, for sure.
You're Oscar nominated for the writing for that. That's pretty decent recognition of how good
the acting is.
Absolutely. No, we'll talk about being Oscar nominated for acting. Let's talk about Training Day.
When the nominations came out, Denzel called me up. I hope he wouldn't mind me saying this. And he said, you know why I'm so happy that you're nominated? And I said, why, Denzel? Because if you got nominated, that means people saw the movie. And if people saw the movie, I'm going to win. What is extremely hard to do, too, is to make a genre film with thoughts and ideas behind it. And the power of it, if you can do it, is that you can kind of infiltrate the psyche and the consciousness of the average drive-in moviegoer. And you can give them something worth watching. Just eradicating the line between high art and low art. I mean, the joy of working on Shakespeare, for example, is when it's done right, it's actually not high art. One of the most amazing experiences of my life is doing the Scottish play for 1,000 inner city students who've never even heard the play. And when the guy comes in and says, the Queen, my lord, is dead, the whole audience goes, you know, and then I say, she should have died hereafter. And the audience goes, oh. As opposed to a normal audience sees that and they think, oh, he didn't do it as well as Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen took a 20-second pause, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all in this comparison and contrast, as opposed to being inside the story. And this stuff is meant to be entertaining. And a good genre film like Training Day, you know, can do that.
But let's talk about what I think is a modern classic, Boyhood. When Richard Linklater first said, right, we're going to make this movie,
I couldn't believe that some weird Czech guy hadn't done it in 1962. And we were both on well, Rick's always on a huge Tolstoy kick, but I was freshly on one, and there's that book, Youth, Boyhood, and Childhood, etc., or something. And we're like, what if you could do that as a movie? I said, oh, this is going to be amazing. Yeah, I'm going to do it. And he said, oh, no, I'm not really offering it to you. Right? This is classic Linklater, you know. I'm like, I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He goes, oh, I mean, obviously I'd want you to do it, but come on, you're going to be doing some big shot thing. It's going to be hard to do. I'm going to need complete commitment for 12 years. I would never ask that of you.
Yeah.
No, I want to do it. You know, I mean, it comes out of your mouth. I promise. All right, shake my hand, he says. You know, and I'm like, I'm in. My first scene with this young man, I'm putting him in a car seat. You know, I'm getting yelled at by somebody because I don't have a car seat for him. And in the last scene, he's got a beard. We're talking about girls. He drives his own pickup away from me. So it's unlike anything I've ever done or ever will do. We would talk about what are the important moments of your childhood, weird moments, and he said, you know what I really remember? My dad got remarried, and I had my birthday at her family's house. And these people were acting like we're family, and they were all really nice. But it was so strange. And I said, oh man, I had that.
Was it hard, once a year to go back into your character and to...
First of all, I knew very clearly who this man was. Right. What was hard was mapping out, okay, when does he sell the GTO? When does he have a new baby? I wanted them, by the time they happened, to feel inevitable, so that you never go, oh, wow, he's changed. And that was my job. And Patricia had a different job. One of the things that I feel is really important to note in talking about this is how few opportunities women have in film to really be three-dimensional women. Women are often asked to either be character parts or to be some idealized version or a witch. Yeah. And so Rick is a very beautiful filmmaker in that regard. And if you think it's not on purpose, it is.
My final question about Boyhood is, how did it feel when you first sat down and saw the finished cut?
I told my wife, I feel like my friend Rick wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. I have a friend who did something magnificent. It was a grand experiment. It was a Herculean effort of patience. There's a lot of my life in the movie. And so to see it dramatized and see Rick carry the ship into port. So I'd never seen that movie before. Dead Poets Society is a lot like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, both great films. Training Days owes a great debt to French Connection. Yeah. I mean, Boyhood, I've never seen that movie before.
Well, no one has. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Ethan Hawke.